Chapter 1: The Last Flight from New York. The morning air at Idlewild Airport was crisp, tinged with the scent of jet fuel and dew. Sunlight crept across the tarmac, painting the silver wings of a Douglas DC-4 in soft gold. It was May 21, 1955. A day like any other. Or so it seemed. Inside the terminal, time moved gently. A woman in a blue dress adjusted her gloves, her eyes scanning the departure board. A man in a gray fedora folded his newspaper and glanced at his watch. A child clutched a toy airplane, its wings chipped from play. "Daddy, are we flying soon?" the boy asked, tugging at his father's coat. "Soon, Tommy," the man replied with a smile. "Just a couple of hours to Miami. You'll be there before you know it." At Gate 12, the boarding call echoed softly. "Pan American Flight 914, now boarding for Miami." Captain Miguel Victor stood by the window, watching clouds drift like slow thoughts. He was a man of habit, of precision. This route, New York to Miami, was familiar. Routine. Safe. "Captain," said Evelyn, the lead flight attendant, approaching with a clipboard. "Passengers are boarding." Miguel nodded. "Let's give them a smooth ride." The crew moved with quiet confidence. Smiles, greetings, the rustle of coats and tickets. No one knew this would be the last time they would be seen. The engines roared to life. The plane taxied forward. Wheels kissed the runway. And then, they were airborne. Flight 914 lifted into the sky, leaving behind the city, the noise, the world. For the first hour and 45 minutes, everything was as it should be. The sky was calm. The passengers relaxed. Coffee was served. Children dozed. The engines hummed like a lullaby. In the cockpit, Miguel glanced at the instruments. "Altitude steady," he said. "Weather clear. We're right on schedule." The co-pilot, James, nodded. "Smoothest ride we've had all week." Evelyn entered the cockpit briefly. Everyone settled. A few are napping. One gentleman asked if we'd arrive early. Miguel smiled. "Tell him we'll be right on time." She nodded and left, her footsteps fading down the aisle. Then, silence. The radio crackled once. Then went dead. Miguel frowned. "Tower, this is Pan AM 914. Do you copy?" No response. James adjusted the frequency. "Try the emergency channel." Static. Pan AM 914, requesting position confirmation. "Tower, do you read?" Nothing. Miguel's hands tightened on the controls. Something's wrong. Outside, the sky remained calm. But the instruments began to flicker. Altitude readings shifted. Compass spun slowly. James looked up. "Captain, we're off course." Miguel stared ahead. No storm. No turbulence. But something's different. In the cabin, the passengers remained unaware. Tommy played with his toy plane. The woman in blue sipped her tea. The man in the fedora closed his eyes. Then, the plane vanished. Back at Idlewild Tower, the radar screen blinked once. Then went dark. "Flight 914, do you copy?" the controller asked. No response. "Pan AM 914, this is Idlewild Tower. Please confirm your position." Silence. The screen remained blank. The sky empty. "Check the frequency," said another controller. "Try the emergency channel." But there was only static. The plane had vanished. No distress call. No debris. No trace. Search teams were dispatched. The coast was scanned. The ocean combed. But the sky had swallowed the plane whole. If you're happy with this tone and pacing, I'll continue with Chapter 2, The Vanishing, where we explore the aftermath, the families, the headlines, and the eerie silence that followed. Ready to continue? Chapter 2, The Vanishing. The control tower at Idlewild buzzed with quiet routine. Screens glowed. Radios murmured. Coffee cooled in paper cups. Pan AM 914, confirm altitude, said the controller, adjusting his headset. Silence. He frowned. Pan AM 914, this is Idlewild Tower. Do you read? Static. Try the emergency frequency, said his colleague, leaning over the console. The technician flipped a switch. Nothing. The radar screen blinked once. Then went blank. Where did they go? Whispered the controller. His voice was low, but the room had already gone still. In a modest apartment in Brooklyn, a woman named Helen sat by the radio, waiting. Her husband, Charles, was aboard Flight 914. She had kissed him goodbye that morning, his suitcase still warm from the ironing board. She turned the dial. News. Music. Silence. No updates. She glanced at the clock. They should have landed by now. She picked up the phone. Pan AM customer service, said the voice on the other end. Yes, hello. My husband is on Flight 914. I just wanted to check. A pause. I'm sorry, ma'am. We're experiencing a delay in communication. Please call back shortly. Helen's hand trembled. She hung up. The silence in the room grew louder. Back at the tower, tension thickened. Run a sweep, said the supervisor. Check the coast. Check the ocean. Check everything. Patrol planes were dispatched. Navy vessels mobilized. The sky was combed like a crime scene. But there was nothing. No wreckage. No oil slick. No signal. It was as if the plane had never existed. In the newsroom of the New York Herald, a young journalist named Frank stared at the wire feed. Flight 914 missing, he muttered. He grabbed his notepad and rushed to the editor. Boss, this could be big. The editor looked up from his coffee. Planes go missing. It happens. Not like this, Frank insisted. No distress call. No debris. No trace. The editor sighed. Write it. But keep it clean. No aliens. No Bermuda Triangle. Frank nodded, but his mind was already racing. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then 10. The families gathered. Some prayed. Some wept. Some stared at the sky, waiting. At Pan AM headquarters, a press conference was held. A man in a dark suit stepped up to the microphone. We regret to inform you that Flight 914 is presumed lost. There were no survivors. The case is closed. Gasps. Cries. Silence. Helen stood in the crowd, her hands clenched. No, she whispered. He's not gone. I'd feel it. In the control tower, the radar screen remained blank. But one technician, an older man named Walter, stared at it every night. He had seen the blip. He had watched it vanish. And sometimes, when the room was quiet, he swore he saw it flicker again. Just for a moment. Just enough to make him wonder. Chapter 3, The Return. Caracas, Venezuela. March 9, 1992. The morning was warm, the air thick with humidity. At Simón Bolívar International Airport, the day began like any other, planes arriving, planes departing, voices echoing through the terminal. In the control tower, air traffic controller Diego Morales sipped his coffee, eyes scanning the radar screen. Anything interesting today? Asked his colleague, Sofia, settling into her chair. Just the usual, Diego replied. Cargo from Bogota, charter from Madrid. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then a blip. Diego leaned forward. What's that? Sofia squinted. No flight plan. No transponder. Altitude. 9,000 feet. Heading straight for us. Diego adjusted his headset. Unidentified aircraft, this is Caracas Tower. Please identify yourself. Static. Then, a voice. This is Pan AM Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Route, New York to Miami. Diego froze. Did you hear that? Sophia's eyes widened. Pan AM? That airline shut down last year. Diego's fingers trembled as he switched channels. Pan AM 914, repeat your last transmission. The voice returned, calm and clear. Pan AM Flight 914. Captain Miguel Victor speaking. Requesting permission to land. Sophia whispered, that flight disappeared in 1955. Diego stood up. No. That's not possible. Outside, the sky shimmered. A silver aircraft approached, slow, steady, graceful. Its body was aged. Paint peeled. Rust clung to the wings. But it flew. The control tower buzzed with urgency. Alert security, Diego said. Call immigration. Medical. Everyone. The radio crackled again. Pan AM 914, cleared to land. Runway 5. The plane descended. Wheels touched the asphalt. Engine sighed. And the past arrived. On the tarmac, officials gathered. Diego stepped forward, heart pounding. The door creaked open. Captain Miguel Victor emerged, his uniform pristine, his posture firm. He looked around, confused. Where are we? He asked. You're in Caracas, Diego replied. It's 1992. Miguel blinked. No. That's not right. We left New York this morning. It's 1955. Behind him, passengers began to exit. Women in knee-length skirts. Men in suits and fedora hats. Children clutching paper tickets. No electronics. No barcodes. Only time-worn faces and vintage luggage. A woman held a child, no older than 3. Diego did the math. If he was 3 in 1955, he should be 40 now. But the child giggled, unaware of the mystery. Miguel turned to Diego. What's going on? Diego swallowed. You've been missing for 37 years. The crowd grew. Reporters arrived. Cameras flashed. Sophia whispered, they haven't aged. Medical teams examined the passengers. No signs of time. No wrinkles. No decay. Just confusion. One man asked, is this some kind of prank? Another said, we were flying to Miami. What is this place? Diego stepped aside, dialing the Central Aviation Office. I need records, he said. Flight 914. Pan AM. 1955. The voice on the other end paused. That flight was declared lost. No survivors. Diego looked out the window. But they're here. Chapter 4, The Reaction. The air around Simón Bolívar International Airport felt heavier than usual. Not from heat, but from something else. Something unspoken. Something ancient. The plane had landed. Passengers had stepped out. And the world had changed. Inside the terminal, chaos brewed beneath the surface. Reporters swarmed the windows. Security officers whispered into radios. Medical teams moved between passengers, checking vitals, asking questions. But no one had answers. In the control tower, Diego Morales stared at the radar screen, still blinking with the impossible. Sophia paced behind him. This can't be real, she muttered. It's a prank. A simulation. Something. Diego didn't respond. He was watching the blip. The same blip that had vanished 37 years ago. He picked up the phone. Get me the aviation archives. I need flight logs from 1955. On the tarmac, Captain Miguel Victor stood tall, but his eyes betrayed him. He looked around at the buildings, the uniforms, the strange cars. "This isn't Miami," he said quietly. A young officer approached. "Sir, I need to ask you a few questions." Miguel nodded slowly. "Of course. But first, what year is this?" The officer hesitated. "It's 1992. Miguel blinked. "No. That's not possible. We took off this morning. May 21st, 1955. The officer looked at him, unsure whether to comfort or confront. "Sir, you've been missing for 37 years." Miguel turned toward his plane. "It's still warm. Still running. We didn't stop." Inside the terminal, a woman named Clara sat with her daughter, the same child she had boarded with in 1955. The girl was still 3. Still clutching her doll. Still asking, "Mommy, where are we?" Clara looked around, tears in her eyes. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." A doctor knelt beside them. "Ma'am, may I ask, do you remember anything unusual during the flight?" Clara shook her head. "No. It was smooth. Quiet. We were flying over the ocean. Then, nothing." The doctor frowned. "No turbulence? No strange lights? No time gaps?" Clara looked at him. Time didn't move. It just paused. In a government office downtown, phones rang nonstop. A man in a gray suit, Agent Rafael Cortez, stood before a wall of monitors. "Get me Washington," he said. "Get me Langley. Get me anyone who can explain this." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, what do we tell them?" Rafael stared at the screen. "Tell them the past just landed in our backyard." Back at the airport, Diego received the archives. He flipped through the yellowed pages, fingers trembling. There it was. Flight 914. Pan AM. Captain Miguel Victor. Departure, New York. Destination, Miami. Status, missing. Presumed lost. He looked out the window. But the plane was there. The passengers were real. And time had broken. Chapter 5, The Disappearance. The sun was high over Caracas. The tarmac shimmered with heat. And yet, no one moved. The passengers of Flight 914 stood in a loose cluster near the aircraft, their eyes wide, their expressions caught between awe and fear. They looked at the buildings, the uniforms, the strange cars, the flashing cameras. Captain Miguel Victor stood apart, his gaze fixed on the control tower. "This isn't right," he murmured. "This isn't our world." Inside the terminal, Agent Rafael Cortez watched from behind tinted glass. He turned to his assistant. "Get me clearance. I want that plane secured. Now." The assistant hesitated. "Sir, the pilot is refusing to leave the aircraft." Rafael narrowed his eyes. "Then we go to him." On the tarmac, Immigration Officer Juan de la Corte approached the plane slowly, clipboard in hand. "Captain Victor," he called, "we need to ask you and your passengers to come inside. For your safety." Miguel turned, his face unreadable. "We've done nothing wrong," he said. "We were flying to Miami. That's all." Juan nodded gently. "I understand. But this isn't 1955 anymore." Miguel's jaw tightened. "I don't believe you." Juan stepped closer. "Sir, please. Let us help you." Miguel looked at his passengers, confused, frightened, clinging to one another like shadows from another time. Then he looked at the sky. And something in his eyes changed. "No," he said quietly. "We're not supposed to be here." He turned, stepped back into the plane, and closed the door. Inside the control tower, alarms began to sound. "Engines are powering up," shouted a technician. "He's starting the takeoff sequence." Rafael grabbed the radio. Flight 914, this is a restricted airspace. You are not cleared for departure. Do you copy? No response. Block the runway, someone yelled. But it was too late. The propellers spun. The wheels rolled. The plane turned, slow and deliberate, toward the open sky. On the ground, people froze. Reporters lowered their cameras. Officials stopped shouting. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The plane accelerated. Lifted. Rose into the air. And then it vanished. No trail. No signal. No sound. Just sky. In the silence that followed, no one spoke. Raphael lowered his radio. Did anyone see where it went? Diego stared at the empty sky. It didn't go anywhere, he said. It just stopped being here. Later that night, the airport was quiet again. The runway was empty. The terminal lights flickered. In a small office, Diego sat alone, replaying the radar footage. The blip appeared. Moved. Paused. Then gone. He leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy. And whispered to himself. Where do you go, when time lets you go? Chapter 6, The Fallout. The news broke like thunder. Plane from 1955 lands in Venezuela, then vanishes again. Headlines screamed across continents. Television anchors stumbled over their words. Radio hosts whispered conspiracies between songs. And the internet, still young, still wild, lit up with questions. Was it time travel? A military experiment? A hoax? No one knew. But everyone wanted to believe. In a newsroom in New York, journalist Frank, the same who had written about Flight 914's disappearance decades ago, stared at the fax machine. A grainy photo printed slowly. A silver plane. Passengers in vintage clothing. A child holding a doll. Frank whispered, "It's real." His editor leaned over his shoulder. "Write it. All of it. Don't hold back." Frank nodded, his fingers already dancing across the keys. In Caracas, Agent Rafael Cortez sat in a dimly lit office. The room was quiet. Too quiet. He replayed the footage. The plane landing. The passengers stepping out. The engines roaring again. Then, nothing. He turned to his assistant. "Any updates?" The young man shook his head. "No radar. No signal. No sightings." Raphael rubbed his temples. "Then we have to ask the real question." "What question, sir?" Raphael looked up. Did they ever really leave? In a small apartment in Brooklyn, Helen, now in her 70s, watched the news in silence. Her husband, Charles, had been aboard Flight 914. She had mourned him. Buried an empty casket. Lived a life of quiet grief. Now, she stared at the screen. A photo. A man in a gray fedora. Her Charles. She touched the glass. "You came back," she whispered. "But where did you go?" Theories bloomed like wildflowers. Some said the plane had entered a time rift. Others claimed it was abducted by aliens. A few believed it had never existed at all. But one voice stood out. A physicist named Dr. Elena Navarro appeared on national television. She spoke calmly, precisely. "There are phenomena we do not yet understand," she said. "Time dilation. Dimensional folds. Quantum echoes." The host leaned in. "Are you saying time travel is real?" Elena paused. "I'm saying, something happened. And it wasn't random." In the shadows of government buildings, files were opened. Old reports. Forgotten testimonies. Classified documents. Flight 914 was no longer a mystery. It was a threat. Or a key. And somewhere, deep underground, a man in a suit whispered. They came back once. They might come back again. Chapter 6, The Fallout. The news broke like thunder. Plane from 1955 lands in Venezuela, then vanishes again. Headlines screamed across continents. Television anchors stumbled over their words. Radio hosts whispered conspiracies between songs. And the internet, still young, still wild, lit up with questions. Was it time travel? A military experiment? A hoax? No one knew. But everyone wanted to believe. In a newsroom in New York, journalist Frank, the same who had written about Flight 914's disappearance decades ago, stared at the fax machine. A grainy photo printed slowly. A silver plane. Passengers in vintage clothing. A child holding a doll. Frank whispered, "It's real." His editor leaned over his shoulder. "Write it. All of it. Don't hold back." Frank nodded, his fingers already dancing across the keys. In Caracas, Agent Rafael Cortez sat in a dimly lit office. The room was quiet. Too quiet. He replayed the footage. The plane landing. The passengers stepping out. The engines roaring again. Then, nothing. He turned to his assistant. "Any updates?" The young man shook his head. "No radar. No signal. No sightings." Raphael rubbed his temples. "Then we have to ask the real question." "What question, sir?" Raphael looked up. Did they ever really leave? In a small apartment in Brooklyn, Helen, now in her 70s, watched the news in silence. Her husband, Charles, had been aboard Flight 914. She had mourned him. Buried an empty casket. Lived a life of quiet grief. Now, she stared at the screen. A photo. A man in a gray fedora. Her Charles. She touched the glass. "You came back," she whispered. "But where did you go?" Theories bloomed like wildflowers. Some said the plane had entered a time rift. Others claimed it was abducted by aliens. A few believed it had never existed at all. But one voice stood out. A physicist named Dr. Elena Navarro appeared on national television. She spoke calmly, precisely. "There are phenomena we do not yet understand," she said. Time dilation. Dimensional folds. Quantum echoes. The host leaned in. "Are you saying time travel is real?" Elena paused. "I'm saying, something happened. And it wasn't random." In the shadows of government buildings, files were opened. Old reports. Forgotten testimonies. Classified documents. Flight 914 was no longer a mystery. It was a threat. Or a key. And somewhere, deep underground, a man in a suit whispered. They came back once. They might come back again. Chapter 7, Theories. The world was no longer quiet. Flight 914 had returned. Then vanished. And now everyone had something to say. In a dimly lit studio in London, a science journalist leaned into his microphone. Was it a wormhole, he asked. Could the aircraft have slipped through a fold in spacetime? His guest, Dr. Eliza Hart, a theoretical physicist, adjusted her glasses. Wormholes are theoretical, she said. But what we saw, it challenges everything. The host leaned closer. Do you believe it was real? Eliza paused. I believe something happened. Something we don't yet understand. In Rome, Father Antonio stood before his congregation. The Lord works in mysterious ways, he said. Perhaps this was a sign. A miracle. A reminder that time belongs not to man, but to God. A woman in the pews whispered, my brother was on that flight. I saw his face on the news. He hasn't aged. Father Antonio closed his eyes. Then perhaps he was protected. Carried through time by divine hands. In Tokyo, a panel of quantum researchers debated live on television. Time dilation, one asked. Dimensional rift, another countered. Mass hallucination, a third suggested. Dr. Kenji Sato shook his head. No. The radar data is real. The voice recordings are real. The passengers were examined. This was not a dream. The moderator leaned forward. Then what was it? Kenji looked into the camera. A tear. A moment where reality blinked. In Caracas, Diego Morales sat with Sofia in a quiet cafe. He stirred his coffee slowly. I keep hearing his voice, he said. Captain Victor. Calm. Precise. Like he never left. Sofia nodded. I keep seeing the child. The one who should be 40. He smiled at me. Like he knew. Diego looked out the window. Do you think they'll come back? Sofia didn't answer. In New York, Helen sat with a reporter from the Herald. Tell me about Charles, the journalist said. Helen smiled faintly. He was kind. Quiet. He loved crossword puzzles and jazz. The reporter leaned in. Do you believe he was on that plane? Helen looked at the photo in her hand. I don't believe. I know. Online, theories multiplied. Some said the plane had entered a secret military experiment. Others claimed it had flown through the Bermuda Triangle. A few believed it had never existed, a mass illusion planted by governments. But one post stood out. A simple message. Time doesn't move in one direction. Sometimes it loops. Sometimes it waits. In a quiet lab in Geneva, Eliza Hart stared at a chalkboard filled with equations. She circled one line. Paused. Then erased it. She turned to her assistant. Start over, she said. We're not thinking big enough. Chapter 8, The Silence. Weeks passed. Then months. The headlines faded. The cameras turned away. But the questions remained. Flight 914 had come. And gone. And left the world quieter. In Caracas, Diego Morales returned to the tower each morning. He no longer expected the blip to reappear. But he watched anyway. Sofia joined him sometimes. They didn't speak much. Just sat. Listening to the hum of the monitors. To the silence between transmissions. One morning, Diego turned to her. Do you think they're still flying? Sofia looked at the sky. I think they never stopped. In New York, Helen walked through Central Park, the photo of Charles tucked in her coat. She didn't cry anymore. She didn't wait. But sometimes, when the wind moved just right, she heard his voice. Back soon, it whispered. Just a short flight. She smiled. And kept walking. In Geneva, Eliza Hart erased the final equation on her board. She stared at the blank space. Maybe it's not about solving, she said to her assistant. Maybe it's about accepting. The assistant nodded. Accepting what? Eliza looked out the window. That time is not ours to hold. In a small village in Argentina, a boy drew a picture in the dirt. A plane. Flying through stars. He looked up at his mother. Will it come back? She knelt beside him. Maybe, she said. Maybe it already has. And somewhere, in the sky no radar can reach, in the fold between seconds, in the breath between years, a plane hums softly. Its engines steady. Its passengers asleep. Its captain watching the horizon. Waiting. Chapter 9, The Loop. The sky over Caracas was clear. No clouds. No wind. Just silence. But in the control tower, Diego Morales stared at the radar. His fingers hovered over the console. His breath slowed. There it was. The blip. Again. Impossible, he whispered. Sophia entered, carrying 2 coffees. You're here early. Diego didn't look up. It's back. She froze. What? He pointed. The same signal. Same altitude. Same trajectory. Flight 914, he said. Same coordinates. Same voice. Sophia set the coffee down. Are we seeing a replay? Diego shook his head. No. It's live. The radio crackled. This is Pan AM Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Route, New York to Miami. Same voice. Same calm tone. Same words. Diego pressed the mic. Pan AM 914, this is Caracas Tower. Confirm your departure date. Pause. May 21st, 1955. Sophia whispered, it's happening again. The plane descended. Same rust. Same faded paint. Same faces. Captain Miguel Victor stepped out. Same uniform. Same confusion. Where are we? He asked. You're in Caracas, Diego replied. It's 1992. Miguel blinked. No. That's not right. We just left New York. Diego stepped closer. Captain, you landed here before. Months ago. Miguel frowned. I don't remember. Sophia whispered, they don't retain it. Inside the terminal, Clara held her daughter. Same doll. Same dress. The child looked up. Mommy, are we lost? Clara nodded slowly. I think we're stuck. In Geneva, Eliza Hart received the alert. She stared at the data. Same flight. Same readings. Same anomaly. Her assistant leaned in. Is it a loop? Eliza nodded. Not a loop in time. A loop in memory. They return, but never remember. In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez reviewed the footage. He paused on Miguel's face. Same expression, he said. Same words. Same steps. His assistant asked, what do we do? Rafael looked at the screen. We wait. And we watch. And somewhere, in the fold between seconds, Flight 914 flies. Again. And again. And again. Its passengers unaware. Its captain steady. Its path, eternal. Chapter 10, The Witness. The plane had landed. Again. Same runway. Same hour. Same silence. Captain Miguel Victor stepped out, calm as ever. Passengers followed, blinking at the sun, confused but composed. But this time, something was different. Inside the terminal, Clara sat with her daughter. The child clutched her doll, humming softly. A man in a brown suit approached. He looked older than the others, not in years, but in eyes. He sat beside Clara. I've seen this before, he said. Clara turned. What do you mean? He looked at the ceiling, as if searching for stars. The landing. The faces. The questions. I remember it. Clara frowned. We just arrived. He shook his head. No. We arrived before. I remember the officer. The woman with the clipboard. The man with the camera. I remember leaving. Clara's breath caught. You remember? He nodded slowly. I think we've done this. More than once. In the control tower, Diego watched the radar. Sophia entered, her face pale. One of the passengers is talking, she said. He remembers. Diego stood. That's not supposed to happen. Agent Rafael Cortez arrived minutes later. He found the man, Leonard Hayes, age 42 in 1955. Still 42 now. You say you remember? Raphael asked. Leonard nodded. I remember the questions. The uniforms. The heat. I remember, flying again. Raphael leaned in. What else? Leonard hesitated. There was a moment. In the sky. Everything went quiet. No sound. No motion. Just light. Like we were floating between seconds. Raphael's voice dropped. Did anyone else notice? Leonard looked around. No. They were asleep. Or dreaming. Or paused. In Geneva, Eliza Hart received the report. She stared at the transcript. A witness, she whispered. A crack in the loop. Her assistant asked, what does it mean? Eliza stood. It means the cycle is weakening. And if one remembers, others might follow. Back in Caracas, Clara watched Leonard closely. Do you think we'll leave again? She asked. Leonard nodded. I think we're not meant to stay. Clara looked at her daughter. Then what happens if we do? Leonard didn't answer. That night, the plane powered up. Engines hummed. Propellers spun. But this time, Leonard didn't board. He stood on the tarmac, watching. Miguel called from the door. Mr. Hayes, we're ready. Leonard shook his head. I'm staying. Miguel frowned. You'll be left behind. Leonard smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. The plane lifted. Rose. Vanished. And Leonard stood alone. In a time that wasn't his. But finally, remembered. Chapter 11, The Shift. Leonard Hayes stood alone on the tarmac. The plane had vanished again. But this time, he had stayed. The air felt different. Thicker. As if time itself was watching him. In the terminal, Diego Morales stared at the empty sky. He broke the loop, he said quietly. Sophia nodded. And now, what happens? Leonard was taken to a secure facility. Not as a prisoner, but as a puzzle. Agent Rafael Cortez sat across from him. You remember everything? Leonard nodded. Every landing. Every takeoff. Every face. But no one else did. Until now. Rafael leaned forward. Why you? Leonard looked down. I don't know. Maybe I was ready. In Geneva, Eliza Hart reviewed the data. Something's shifting, she said. The loop is unstable. The pattern is breaking. Her assistant asked, is that dangerous? Eliza stared at the screen. It's unknown. Meanwhile, in Caracas, strange things began to happen. A technician reported seeing the plane for a moment hovering above the runway. But no one else saw it. A child drew a picture of the aircraft with lightning around it. She said it came to her in a dream. Sophia received a call from a pilot. I saw it, he said. Flying beside me. Then gone. Leonard began to dream. Not of the past, but of futures that never happened. He saw himself boarding the plane again. But this time, it didn't vanish. It landed in a city he didn't recognize. With buildings made of glass and light. He woke up sweating. They're trying to break through, he whispered. Raphael brought him back to the airport. Why here? Leonard asked. Raphael pointed to the sky. This is where it started. And maybe, where it ends. That night, the radar blinked. Diego sat up. It's back. Sophia leaned over. But something's wrong. The signal is fractured. The blip flickered. Split. Multiplied. 3 signals. Then 5. Then none. Diego whispered, it's unraveling. Leonard stood on the runway, eyes closed. He felt the air shift. Felt the hum beneath his feet. Felt the memory of motion. And then, he saw them. Passengers. Flickering like ghosts. Walking. Boarding. Smiling. He opened his eyes. They were gone. Chapter 12, The Echo. The sky over Caracas was quiet. But the silence no longer felt empty. It felt layered. As if something had passed through it. And left a trace. In the control tower, Diego Morales stared at the radar. No blip. No signal. But the air felt charged. Sophia entered, holding a folder. Reports, she said. From other airports. Diego opened it. Inside, transcripts, photos, testimonies. A pilot in Bogota saw a silver aircraft flying beside him. No registration. No response. A technician in Lima heard a voice on an empty channel. This is Pan AM Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Diego looked up. It's echoing. In Geneva, Eliza Hart reviewed the anomalies. She circled dates. Mapped locations. Traced patterns. They're not random, she said. They're ripples. Her assistant frowned. Ripples of what? Eliza stared at the map. Of time. Of memory. Of something trying to return. In New York, Helen received a letter. No stamp. No sender. Inside, a photo. Charles. Standing beside the plane. Smiling. On the back, a single line. I remember. She pressed the photo to her chest. I do too. In Caracas, Leonard Hayes walked the streets. He saw reflections in windows. Passengers. Faces. Gone when he turned. He heard footsteps behind him. But no one was there. He entered a bookstore. Picked up a novel. Opened to a random page. Pan Am Flight 914 vanished in 1955. But some say it never truly left. He closed the book. Looked at the clerk. Did you write this? The clerk shook his head. It was always there. At the airport, Sophia found a child drawing on the floor. A plane. Flying through stars. Surrounded by clocks. What's this? She asked. The child smiled. It's the plane that keeps coming back. Sophia now. Chapter 13, The Signal. The night was quiet. Too quiet. In the control tower of Simón Bolívar International Airport, Diego Morales sat alone. The radar was blank. The air was still. But something felt near. He reached for his headset. Not out of protocol, but instinct. Then a sound. Not static. Not noise. A voice. This is Pan Am Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Diego froze. He pressed the mic. Pan Am 914, this is Caracas Tower. Confirm your departure date. May 21, 1955. Diego's hand trembled. Captain Victor, do you remember landing here before? Silence. Then, the voice returned. Yes. I remember. Sophia burst into the room, breathless. I heard it, she said. Is it real? Diego nodded. He remembers. In Geneva, Eliza Hart received the transmission. She played it back. Again. And again. This changes everything, she whispered. Her assistant leaned in. What do we do? Eliza stared at the waveform. We listen. In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez stood before a wall of screens. Patch me through, he said. The technician nodded. Channel open. Rafael spoke slowly. Captain Victor, this is Agent Rafael Cortez. Can you hear me? Yes. Do you know where you are? Not exactly. The sky feels different. Do you know what year it is? I think it's many years. All at once. Raphael looked at the technician. He's aware. On the tarmac, Leonard Hayes stood beneath the stars. He closed his eyes. He could hear it. The hum. The voice. The memory. He whispered, "They're coming back." Inside the tower, Diego leaned forward. "Captain, what do you see?" "Clouds. Light. A shimmer. It's like flying through mirrors." Sophia whispered, "He's between." Diego nodded. "Between what?" "Between then and now." The signal grew stronger. Clearer. Passengers began to speak. "Are we landing? Is this Miami? I feel older." One voice stood out. A child. "Mommy, I see the stars." "They're talking." Clara's voice followed. "We're not afraid anymore." Eliza Hart recorded every word. "This is a temporal bleed," she said. "A moment where time speaks." Her assistant asked, "Can we bring them back?" Eliza looked at the screen. "Maybe. But only if they want to return." The signal pulsed. Then faded. Then silence. But not emptiness. Diego removed his headset. "They're close," he said. Sophia looked at the sky. "They're listening." Chapter 14, The Choice. The signal had stabilized. Voices came through clearly. Not echoes. Not fragments. Real. In the control tower, Diego Morales sat with Sophia, listening. "This is Captain Miguel Victor. We are aware." Diego pressed the mic. "Captain, you've returned. You're not alone." Silence. Then. "We know. We remember." In Geneva, Eliza Hart stared at the waveform. "They're conscious," she said. "They're choosing." Her assistant leaned in. "Choosing what?" Eliza whispered. "To stay. Or to leave." In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez convened a meeting. "We have a window," he said. "A moment to act." A general asked, "What do you propose?" Rafael looked at the screen. "We offer them a place. A life. Here. Now." On the tarmac, Leonard Hayes stood beneath the stars. He closed his eyes. He could feel them. The hum. The presence. The question. He whispered, "You don't have to go." Inside the aircraft, Captain Miguel Victor sat in the cockpit. He looked at his crew. At Evelyn. At James. They were quiet. But their eyes held memories. Miguel spoke softly. "We've flown this path too many times." Evelyn nodded. "I remember the child. The woman. The questions." James added, "I remember the heat. The silence. The shimmer." Miguel turned to the intercom. "Passengers, we have a choice." In the cabin, Clara held her daughter. The child looked up. "Mommy, are we going home?" Clara kissed her forehead. "I think we already did." The intercom crackled. "We can land. We can stay. But only if we choose." A murmur spread through the cabin. Some wept. Some smiled. Some closed their eyes. In the tower, Diego waited. Then, the voice returned. "This is Captain Miguel Victor. We choose to land." The radar blinked. The sky shimmered. And the plane appeared. Not fading. Not flickering. Real. It descended. touched the runway, rolled to a stop. And this time, it stayed. Chapter 15, The Arrival. Morning broke over Caracas with an unusual stillness. The silver Douglas DC-4 stood quietly on the runway, bathed in soft light. It hadn't vanished. It had stayed. Inside the terminal, silence reigned. Airport staff, military officers, journalists, all frozen in place. The aircraft door creaked open. Captain Miguel Victor stepped out first. He scanned the horizon slowly, deliberately. "We're here?" he asked. Diego Morales nodded. "Yes, Captain. You've landed. And this time, you remained." Miguel closed his eyes for a moment. "I feel it. Oh wait. As if we didn't just arrive, we crossed." Passengers began to disembark. Clara held her daughter's hand. The child looked up at the sky and smiled. "Mommy, it's different," she said. "Yes," Clara replied. "It's real." Inside the terminal, Sophia greeted them with a soft smile. "Welcome," she said. "We don't have all the answers. But you're here. And that's a beginning." One of the passengers, an older man, paused. "We weren't supposed to survive," he whispered. "But we didn't just survive. We returned." In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez watched the live feed. "They chose to stay," he said. "Now we must choose how to live with that." In Geneva, Eliza Hart recorded the final data stream. "This isn't just an arrival," she said. "It's a shift." "A shift in what?" her assistant asked. "In reality. In memory. In time." In New York, Helen stepped outside. She held Charles's photo in her coat pocket. And suddenly, she felt it. He was near. Not as a ghost, but as a breath of the past made present. On the streets of Caracas, people watched the passengers. They looked like us. But not quite. They carried the silence of the sky. And the whisper of time. Captain Miguel Victor stood beside the aircraft. He ran his hand along the fuselage. "You brought us home," he said. "But now, we must build a new path." Chapter 16, The Integration. The world had moved on. But now, it had to make room for those who hadn't. The passengers of Flight 914 were no longer missing. They were here. Alive. And 37 years out of time. In a government facility outside Caracas, the passengers were housed temporarily. Not imprisoned, but observed. Protected. Studied. They were given clothes. Food. Televisions. And questions. So many questions. Captain Miguel Victor sat in a small room with Agent Rafael Cortez. On the table between them, a digital watch, a cassette tape, a plastic credit card. Miguel picked up the watch. "No gears," he murmured. "No ticking." Rafael nodded. "It's quartz. Battery powered." Miguel smiled faintly. "Time without sound. Fitting." In another room, Clara helped her daughter into a new dress. The child twirled, giggling. "Mommy, the lights turn on when I clap." Clara smiled, but her eyes were distant. She looked out the window at the city skyline. So tall. So fast. So loud. She whispered, "Where are we?" Leonard Hayes, the man who remembered, was given a newspaper. He read slowly. The Cold War. The moon landing. The fall of Berlin. He looked up at the nurse beside him. "We missed everything." She nodded. "But you're here now." Leonard folded the paper. "Are we?" In Geneva, Eliza Hart watched the footage of their arrival. She paused on each face. "They're adapting," she said. Her assistant asked, "Will they be allowed to stay?" Eliza replied, "They already have." In New York, Helen received a call. A voice on the other end. Mrs. Langston? This is the Venezuelan consulate. We believe your husband may be among the passengers. Helen dropped the phone. Tears welled in her eyes. I knew it, she whispered. I knew he'd come back. Back in Caracas, the passengers were given a choice. To return to their old lives if anything remained. Or to begin again. Some chose silence. Some chose names they hadn't spoken in decades. Some chose to disappear. Miguel stood before the group. We are not ghosts, he said. We are not miracles. We are survivors. And we must learn to live again. That night, Clara sat on a bench outside the facility. Her daughter slept beside her. Leonard joined her. Do you think we'll ever feel normal? She asked. Leonard looked at the stars. I don't think we're meant to. But maybe we'll feel real. Chapter 17, The Return of the Past. The world had welcomed them. Now it had to make sense of them. The passengers of Flight 914 were no longer a mystery. They were citizens. Relatives. Ghosts made flesh. And the past had come knocking. In a courthouse in New York, a judge stared at a file. Charles Langston, she read aloud. Declared legally dead in 1960. Now, standing in front of me. Charles stood tall, his suit pressed, his eyes steady. I never died, Your Honor, he said. I just arrived late. The courtroom murmured. Helen sat in the front row, hands clasped tightly. The judge looked at her. Mrs. Langston, do you wish to restore his legal identity? Helen nodded, tears in her eyes. I never stopped being his wife. In Caracas, Clara walked through a supermarket. She stared at the fluorescent lights. The endless rows. The plastic packaging. Her daughter tugged at her sleeve. Mommy, what's this? Clara picked up a microwave dinner. I don't know. Leonard Hayes was interviewed by a panel of historians. You were a journalist in 1955, one asked. What do you remember of the world then? Leonard smiled. Everything was slower. Letters took days. News came on paper. People looked each other in the eye. Another historian leaned forward. And now? Leonard looked out the window. Now, everything moves. But no one knows where. In Geneva, Eliza Hart presented her findings. The passengers are stable. No cellular anomalies. No signs of accelerated aging. A physicist raised a hand. But how did they survive? Eliza paused. They didn't survive. They were preserved. By time. Or something outside of it. In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez testified before a closed committee. Are they a threat? A senator asked. Rafael shook his head. No. They're a reminder. Of what? Rafael looked at the seal of the United States behind the panel. That we don't understand everything. And maybe we never will. In a quiet apartment, Charles and Helen sat together. He held her hand. I missed so much, he said. Helen smiled. You're here now. He looked at the television, color, sound, motion. I don't know this world. Helen leaned her head on his shoulder. Then we'll learn it together. And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer remained. A trace. A possibility. That the past was not gone. Only waiting. Chapter 18, The Museum of the Sky. Months had passed. The world had adjusted. The passengers had begun to live. But the story of Flight 914 refused to fade. In Caracas, a new building rose near the airport. Glass walls. Curved steel. A silhouette shaped like wings. The Museum of the Sky. Inside, artifacts, recordings, testimonies. A preserved section of the Douglas DC-4. The original flight manifest. A looping audio of Captain Miguel Victor's voice. This is Pan AM Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Miguel visited quietly, often at night. He stood before the cockpit replica, hands behind his back. Sophia joined him one evening. "You don't like it?" she asked. Miguel shook his head. "It's beautiful. But it feels like a tomb." Sophia looked around. Or a beginning. Clara brought her daughter to the children's wing. There were drawings. Simulations. A room where stars danced across the ceiling. The child pointed. "That's where we flew." Clara smiled. "Yes. Through the sky that waited." Leonard Hayes gave lectures now. Universities. Conferences. Panels. He stood before crowds and said, "We were not chosen. We were caught. But what we do now, that's our choice." A student asked, "Do you miss the past?" Leonard paused. "I miss its simplicity. But not its silence." In Geneva, Eliza Hart published her paper. Temporal Displacement and Cognitive Continuity, the Case of Flight 914. It was debated, dissected, admired. But Eliza knew it was only the surface. She wrote in her journal, "They are not anomalies. They are bridges." In New York, Helen and Charles walked through Central Park. He wore a new coat. She carried a camera. They passed a group of teenagers with headphones, laughing. Charles smiled. "I don't understand half of what I see." Helen laughed. "You don't have to. You just have to live it." At the museum's grand opening, Miguel gave a speech. He stood before the crowd, the press, the world. "We flew through time," he said. "We returned. And now, we must remember not just what we lost, but what we found." And somewhere, in the quiet sky, a shimmer remained. Not a warning. Not a mystery. But a memory. Chapter 19, The Sky Remembers. The world had moved on. The passengers had begun new lives. The museum stood tall. The story was archived. But the sky had not forgotten. In the mountains of Peru, a shepherd looked up and saw a silver plane gliding silently across the stars. No sound. No trail. Just presence. He whispered to his dog, "They're flying again." In a small town in Iceland, a child drew a picture in the snow. A plane. Surrounded by clocks. Above it, a spiral. Her mother asked, "Where did you see that?" The child smiled. "In the sky. Last night. It was glowing." In Tokyo, a pilot reported a strange anomaly. "I was cruising at 30,000 feet, he said. And then, the instruments froze. For exactly 37 seconds. When asked what he saw, he replied, "Nothing. But I felt watched." In Geneva, Eliza Hart received a new data stream. Unscheduled radar echoes. Brief, flickering signals. All matching the signature of Flight 914. She turned to her assistant. "It's not over," she said. "It's expanding." In Caracas, Miguel Victor stood outside the museum. He looked up at the stars. "I hear them," he said to Sophia. "Not voices. Not words. But memory." Sophia nodded. The sky remembers. Leonard Hayes began to write again. Not articles. Not lectures. But stories. He titled his first, "The Flight That Never Landed." He wrote, "We touched the sky. And the sky touched back." In New York, Helen found Charles staring at the night sky. He whispered, "Sometimes I feel like we're still flying." Helen took his hand. "Then let's fly together." And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer pulsed. Not a warning. Not a glitch. But a heartbeat. The sky remembers. And it waits. Chapter 20, The Invitation. It began with a flicker. A commercial flight, Transatlantic 307, en route from Lisbon to New York. Clear skies. Routine check-ins. Nothing unusual. Until the pilot heard it. "This is Pan Am Flight 914. Requesting permission to land." Captain Elise Navarro blinked. She checked the frequency. It was clean. No interference. No cross-channel bleed. She leaned forward. Repeat transmission. Silence. Then again. Pan Am Flight 914. Requesting permission to land. Her co-pilot stared at her. "That flight, it's the one that vanished." Elise nodded slowly. And returned. In Caracas, Diego Morales received the alert. He stared at the radar. "No signal," he said. "But the voice is spreading." Sofia joined him. "Another flight heard it?" Diego nodded. "It's reaching out." In Geneva, Eliza Hart reviewed the audio. She isolated the waveform. Compared it to the original 914 transmission. "Identical," she whispered. "But layered." Her assistant asked, "Layered with what?" Eliza stared at the screen. "With something new." In Washington, Agent Rafael Cortez convened a task force. "This is not a repeat," he said. "This is an invitation." A young analyst asked, "To what?" Rafael looked at the map. "To follow." On board Transatlantic 307, Elise Navarro made a decision. She adjusted course. Not by much. Just enough. The sky shimmered. The instruments flickered. And for 37 seconds everything stopped. No motion. No sound. No time. Then it resumed. Elise turned to her crew. "Did you feel that?" They nodded. One whispered, "It felt like a door." Back in Caracas, Leonard Hayes stood outside the museum. He looked up. "They're calling," he said. Clara joined him. "Who?" Leonard smiled faintly. "The sky." And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer pulsed. Not backward. Not forward. But open. The invitation had been sent. And someone had answered. Chapter 21, The Crossing. Altitude, 33,000 feet. Speed, 480 knots. Sky, clear. Time, irrelevant. Captain Elise Navarro stared at the instruments. They were working, but something felt off. The air was too still. The clouds too symmetrical. The silence, too deep. Her co-pilot, Marcus, leaned forward. "Do you feel that?" Elise nodded. "It's like we're flying through glass." Then, the shimmer. Outside the cockpit, the sky bent. Not violently. Not loudly. Just folded. A ripple of light. A pulse of memory. And then, the voice. "This is Pan Am Flight 914. Requesting permission to land." Marcus whispered, "It's happening again." Elise adjusted the heading. "Not yet. Let's see where it leads." In Caracas, Diego Morales watched the radar. A new blip. Not 914. But similar. Sofia entered, breathless. Transatlantic 307. They're in it. Diego nodded. They're crossing. In Geneva, Eliza Hart stared at the data stream. Same frequency, she said. Same distortion. But the signal is evolving. Her assistant asked, "What does that mean?" Eliza whispered. "It's learning." On board 307, the cabin lights flickered. Passengers stirred. Some gasped. Some wept. A child looked out the window. "Mommy, the stars are moving." Her mother held her close. "They're just dancing." Elise opened the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unusual phenomenon. Remain calm. We are not in danger." She paused. "We are somewhere new." Marcus turned to her. "Should we turn back?" Elise looked ahead. "No. We go forward." The shimmer deepened. The sky folded again. And the plane passed through. Not into darkness. Not into light. Into memory. In Caracas, the radar blinked. Then, silence. Diego whispered. "They've crossed." Sophia asked, "Will they return?" Diego looked at the sky. "Only if they choose to." Chapter 22, The Other Side. The shimmer faded. The turbulence stopped. And Transatlantic 307 was somewhere else. Not lost. Not broken. Just shifted. Captain Elise Navarro scanned the horizon. No stars. No sun. Just a soft glow like dawn frozen in amber. Her co-pilot whispered, "Where are we?" Elise replied, "I don't think it's a place. I think it's a moment." In the cabin, passengers stirred. No panic. No fear. Just quiet. A child looked out the window. "Mommy, there's another plane." Outside, drifting in the glow, a silver aircraft. Douglas DC-4. Flight 914. Elise stepped into the aisle. "Everyone stay calm," she said. "We're not alone." In the control tower in Caracas, Diego Morales stared at the radar. No signal. No trace. But he felt it. "They're not gone," he said. "They've arrived." Sophia nodded. On the other side. In Geneva, Eliza Hart received a burst of data. Unstructured. Chaotic. Beautiful. She whispered, "It's a mirror. Not of space. Of time." On board 307, Elise opened the intercom. "We're experiencing something extraordinary. You may see things. Hear things. Feel things." She paused. "Let them come." Outside, the two planes drifted closer. No engines. No motion. Just presence. From Flight 914, a voice echoed. "You followed." Elise replied. "Yes." "Then you're ready." The glow deepened. Passengers saw memories. Lost moments. Unspoken words. A man saw his father. A woman heard her wedding song. A child saw herself older, smiling. Elise stepped into the cockpit. Miguel Victor was there. Not aged. Not changed. Just waiting. He looked at her. "You're the first to choose." Elise nodded. "What happens now?" Miguel smiled. "We begin." And somewhere, in the folds of time, two planes drifted. Not lost. Not trapped. But together. The sky had opened. And the story was no longer a mystery. It was a path. Chapter 23, The Merge. Transatlantic 307 drifted beside Flight 914. Two aircraft. Two timelines. One silence. Inside 307, Captain Elise Navarro stood in the aisle. Her passengers were quiet. Some asleep. Some dreaming. Some remembering things they had never lived. She turned to Marcus. "They're merging." He nodded. "I feel it too." On board Flight 914, Miguel Victor watched his crew. Evelyn whispered, "I remember Lisbon." James added, "I remember Elise." Miguel closed his eyes. "We're becoming." Outside, the glow pulsed. Not light. Not heat. Memory. Passengers from both flights began to see each other. A woman from 914 reached for a man from 307. They touched and both gasped. "I know you," she said. "I've never met you," he replied. "But I remember your voice." In Caracas, Diego Morales stared at the blank radar. "No signal," he said. "But they're not gone." Sophia asked, "What are they now?" Diego whispered. "A story rewriting itself." In Geneva, Eliza Hart recorded the anomalies. Cross-memory, she said. Shared cognition. Temporal empathy. Her assistant asked, "Is it permanent?" Eliza replied, "It's becoming." On board 307, Elise addressed her passengers. "You may feel things. See things. Know things that aren't yours." She paused. "They are now." Leonard Hayes stood in the glow between the planes. He saw Clara. He saw Elise. He saw himself, younger, older, both. He whispered, "We're not passengers anymore. We're witnesses." The planes began to fade. Not vanish. Transform. Into light. Into memory. Into something new. And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer pulsed. Not as a warning. Not as a loop. But as a bridge. The merge was complete. And the sky remembered everything. Chapter 24, The New Flight. It didn't begin with engines. Or clearance. Or a gate. It began with memory. In Caracas, a child stood at the edge of the runway. She held a paper plane. Folded carefully. Drawn with stars. She whispered, "Fly." And the wind listened. In Geneva, Eliza Hart stared at a blank screen. No data. No signal. Just a single line. Flight 000. Cleared for departure. She turned to her assistant. "It's not a flight number," she said. "It's a beginning." In New York, Charles Langston sat beside Helen. He held a letter not from the past, but from the future. It read, "You are invited. Bring only what you remember." Helen smiled. "Would you go?" Charles looked at the sky. "I think I already did." In Washington, Rafael Cortez received a call. A pilot. Young. Calm. "I saw it," she said. A plane with no markings. No sound. Just light. Rafael asked, "Did it land?" "No," she replied. It waited. Then it rose. At the Museum of the Sky, Miguel Victor stood before the cockpit. He placed his hand on the glass. "You're not a relic," he said. "You're a seed." Behind him, a new aircraft was being assembled. Not a replica. Not a restoration. A vessel designed from memory. Leonard Hayes wrote his final entry. "We flew through time. We returned. And now, we launch. Not to escape. But to remember." And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer pulsed. A new flight. A new crew. A new story. Not repeating. Not looping. Becoming. Chapter 25, The Departure. It wasn't on any schedule. No gate. No boarding pass. No announcement. But they came. In Caracas, the runway shimmered. Not with heat. But with memory. A new aircraft stood waiting. Sleek. Silent. Unmarked. Its name, Flight 000. Miguel Victor stood beside it. Not as captain. As witness. He turned to Elise Navarro. "It's yours now." She nodded. "I'm ready." Passengers arrived. Not assigned. Awakened. Clara and her daughter. Leonard Hayes. Charles and Helen. Strangers who had dreamed of stars. Children who had drawn spirals in the sky. They didn't ask where it was going. Only why. Inside the cabin, there were no seat numbers. No safety cards. Only windows wide and clear. Outside, the sky pulsed. Not blue. Not black. Just open. Elise stepped into the cockpit. She placed her hand on the console. It lit up. Softly. Like breath. She spoke. We fly not to escape, but to remember. To connect. To begin. The engines hummed. The runway cleared. The world watched. And Flight 000 rose. Not into air. Into time. In Geneva, Eliza Hart smiled. They've launched, she said. Her assistant asked, to where? Eliza replied. To wherever memory dares to go. In Caracas, Diego Morales turned off the radar. Sophia asked, aren't you tracking them? Diego smiled. No. This one, we trust. And somewhere, in the folds of time, a shimmer pulsed. Not as a mystery. Not as a warning. But as a promise. The sky had waited. And now it flies.